Welcome to the Aesthetic Immersion, where passion and knowledge come together.
Founded by Dr. Gideon Kwok and Lori Robertson, FNP, Aesthetic Immersion aims to be the most immersive medical training experience for practitioners of all levels. From in-house training courses and online webinars to our exclusive digital course library and special events, Aesthetic Immersion offers you the opportunity to learn the best techniques from leading experts in the medical aesthetic industry. We are more than proud to launch this high-level aesthetic academy as an extension of Skin Perfect Medical, solidifying our goal as the authority in medical aesthetics.
What's going on, people? How's everyone doing today? Hopefully everyone's in their houses and
We're nice and warm with our cozy fire.
So we have an amazing talk today. We are having some special guests to help talk to us about the whole COVID situation and how it's affecting all of our businesses. I think this is gonna be a good talk. We'll try and delineate between the people that are employing, the business owners, to the employees, and what the government stimulus plan is, what we have to look forward to, what the forecast maybe with the economy and everything is. So we're gonna jump right into that. But first, some house cleaning. We have some webinars that are coming up. Tuesday, this coming Tuesday, right? It's April 14th. We're talking about injecting hands and earlobes, and we're doing a special pricing for $9.99. So if you guys want to jump in on that, that's going to be at 10 a.m. on Tuesday. And then we're going to have another s'more time next Thursday. Same time, 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And we're going to talk about the nitty gritty of toxins and dermal fillers. And then also, if you guys missed our laser webinar, we had a lot of good response to that. We recorded it and we edited it, and it's going to be back up on our website, and you can purchase it for $9.99. What else do we have? Our contest winners for this week, we will be announcing at the end of this webinar, and then we're going to announce a new giveaway. This is a cool one. And then lastly, we still have our bundle, our webinar bundle, our 8 series. I think we've gotten a lot of good feedback on that. It's normally a $1,600 value for $9.97. Put in the code SMORE, SMORE 402. But let's get started because we have a lot to talk about.
We do. Today is jam-packed with information, and I think it's going to be really relevant. So you guys get a piece of paper and pencil. Make sure you take some notes, and it's going to help you in your businesses get back on your feet. So I'd like to introduce our guests. We have Jay Shorr of Shorr Solutions. He is the founder of Shorr Solutions out of Florida. They do medical practice consulting. And Jay has a huge resume. We couldn't read it all, but he has been vice president of operations and practice administrator for dermatologists, cosmetic surgeons. Very, very well informed on business and looking at businesses and see what businesses need to do and helping businesses grow. So he has seen the good and the bad through the years. So he's wonderful. Our other guest is Allyson Avila. She is a lawyer. She is a partner in Gordon Rees Scully and Mancushani out of New York. And she is a business civil trial practice. She does medical malpractice, nursing home litigation, a lot of employment claims, and she has a diverse knowledge in business legalities and liability issues. So we're bringing those on now. We're bringing both Jay and Allyson on. Now keep in mind, you guys, on this chat session, we have both, there's a chat and a Q&A on here. Now, if you want to chat, that chat is for between yourselves. If you want to ask us some questions, go onto the Q&A, and we'll be having people look at that, and we'll be helping to answer some of those questions. So again, the chat is for you guys to chat together and complain, whatever you want to do, and then come over to the Q&A to ask us some questions. So we are going to go through some of the things with Jay. Jay is on here right now, and we're going to throw it to you, Jay.
Good afternoon. Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Okay, great. Well, fine. It's a pleasure. It's an honor, actually, to be associated with you on this Aesthetic Immersion webinar. Once again, for those of you who know me, my name is Jay Shorr. I won't go through my resume. It is quite extensive, but I actually can make it very quick. I'm a practice management consultant, and I specialize in aesthetic, cosmetic, and surgical practices throughout the United States. I was doing international, but not now. And actually, I'm not doing anything national right now. I'm doing everything from sunny South Florida. But we specialize in the operational, administrative, and financial health of medical practices. And along with my colleague, Allyson Avila, who we use as one of our business attorneys, as well as a very trusted legal colleague in healthcare, both on the transactional side and on the litigating side as well. We decided that we would like to join today because there is so much going on in the pandemic and the crisis of this COVID-19 right now. And Allyson did join one of our webinars last week, basically when this first started with the governmental regulatory compliance, because it happens to deal with the panic of what practices are doing. And then, of course, there came the legal side of it. I am not an attorney, and I'll make a disclaimer, although I may speak a lot of medical jargon. I am also not a doctor. I have spent many, many years of my life in emergency trauma and aesthetic cosmetic medicine. I was a partner in a leading South Florida dermatology, facial body plastic, aesthetic plastic gynecology practice, but I'm on the administration and the financial side, legal regulatory compliance. That's who I am. You'll see the FAU information, the backdrop, the green screen in the background. That's because I am also on faculty. I'm adjunct faculty at Florida Atlantic University, and Allyson was also a faculty member of mine last week when I was teaching legal regulatory compliance. Right now, we're doing it from home. And this is such great information that we would like to present to you, Lori, and both from a practice owner's point of view, mine coming from a third-party external point of view that deals with medical practices like yourself, and I deal with all kinds of practices throughout the country. And Allyson, from the pandemonium, the pandemic, the fright, she's the attorney that protects the medical practice. She is not on the plaintiff side, she's on the defense side. And I'll let Allyson sing her own praise, but nobody can sing somebody's praise better than somebody else other than themselves. So that's why it's an honor to be associated with Aesthetic Immersion, because I lecture with Lori throughout the country, and we happen to share our stories multiple times on the podium during the year. I also lecture with Allyson multiple times during the year at some of the major conferences. So Allyson, please introduce yourself and just share a few minutes of who you are and what you do before we take it away.
Oh, thank you, Jay. Oh, and thank you for having me here. And I don't really think that I can say anything better about myself than you already did, Jay. Yeah, so I'm part of a partner in a practice that is nationwide. So we have offices in all 50 states, and we do a variety of practices. So healthcare, transactional, there's small business loans, employment issues, medical malpractice, and all defense work. And so I'm happy to join you today. I want to caution everybody that, the regulations have been coming out slow and steady, and they've been changing frequently. So we can only provide you with the information that we have up to date. It may change, and we do expect that there are going to be some changes that are going to come down the pike relatively soon. But yeah, as Jay said, we speak frequently together at aesthetic conferences, and our main goal is to help practices make sure that they are maximizing their profits and minimizing their risks. And so I do thank Jay and Aesthetic Immersion for allowing me to participate with you here.
Perfect.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you, Allyson. We have the first question we kind of want to put to you, probably Jay, is can you differentiate kind of what's an SBA loan, the PPP, the EIDL, kind of break those apart quickly and explain to our audience what those are and what they can do with them.
All right, your volume is coming in very, very low, Lori, but I'll try my best. All
Try
right.
to sound sexy.
Okay. So, look, there are so many different three-letter acronyms that are coming out. And what is SBA? And what is PPP? And what is EIDL? Now, let's start from the very, very beginning. The CARES Act is what is controlling most of this. And the Small Business Administration is is governing the SBA. And many times the SBA helps small businesses in federal funding, many times through banks, in order to get your business started, in order to keep your business afloat. And there are many conditions of an SBA loan that have certain terms and conditions associated with it, no differently than a bank loan. It's just backed by the SBA. However, during this time right now, a lot of those have been relaxed. So let's talk about the first one. And the first one being this PPP. As I go around, PPP has a totally different three-letter acronym today than it did last month. As I go around and I hold practices, I always say that PPP should stand for policies, procedures, and protocols. I don't say that much anymore today because all your PPP should be CCC, which is clear, concise, and consistent. However, your payroll protection program is what's going on today. And the federal government has come up with trillions of dollars of backed loans money. And let me try and explain what that's for. What's going on today is you're able to apply, and this has been a pandemic nightmare in and of itself as well. And let me explain why. Initially, this form that came out for the PPP, this payroll protection program, was one that you were going to be able to apply through the SBA. Then it changed. And then it was applied through the banking system, the federal banking system. So here I went and I got all of my contacts because I deal with hundreds of millions of dollars of transactional loans through the course of the year as we're helping practices build, open, and continue. And we get third-party commercial lenders that help to lend money. However, initially they were going to take on a lot of the clients, and then the bank said, we're only going to lend money and accept applications because the government then said, open it up to the lenders and let it go through their portals. So what ended up happening is this was supposed to be last Friday, and then it was supposed to be last Saturday. And then I heard Sunday and Monday. Now, it did open up last week because I did apply on Saturday. And after 11 crashes, I was the 4,397th applicant to be received. I didn't say accepted. I said received. So I know my application has been confirmed and received. However, that is through a big local bank in South Florida called PNC. Put PNC like BOA, put it like Chase, put it like Wells Fargo, although the two largest bankers are BOA and Chase, and Wells Fargo as well. So what happened is they were opening up these to the portals. However, you can imagine all these hundreds of thousands of businesses that were applying, and then all of a sudden systems started to crash. So what was happening is now banks are actually shutting out people from applying because they've already reached limits in their maximums. Now, Wells Fargo in itself became a very big problem. I don't want to get into the nightmare of what happened to them several years ago. That would speak for itself, but they were remanded to $10 billion of loans. All right, well, you know how fast that shut. Well, that really is unfair, but because what the federal government did to Wells Fargo is a Wells Fargo and federal government issue and should not have any say upon the borrowers, people and small businesses like us. Rumor has it, federal government has relaxed that. Wells Fargo has also agreed to donate their proceeds of the commissions portions into a charitable organization. Hence, BOA and Chase also crashed many times. Now, I'm going to get into the application of the payroll protection program. There is rumor, by the way, that the SBA crashed over the weekend for all these loans. It's not a rumor. It did crash, but was back up in 4 hours. Let me share what the rumor was. The rumor was that all the accepted applications were disposed of and you would have to go through with it again. That's the rumor. So although social media can be very, very informative, social media can also be very dangerous with their information. So the problem now occurs is that a lot of the local banks aren't able to accept any more of the applications. So now what's going to happen? I don't know. The federal government is going to have to come up and step in and allow some of the banks to come up with more application funding if it exceeds the amount of money. Now, before I turn it over to Allyson, I'm going to explain what PPP is and how you apply for it. When you go to the portal, there are a list of questions. Now, the application process in and of itself is pretty simple. For those of you who can see, this is an application, it's a standard SBA application. It is the SBA form 2483. All right, and it is the payroll protection program. It goes through a list of application questions. You then have to acknowledge and check some boxes that you're acknowledging that everything you're saying is true and correct. You're either a naturalized citizen or you're a business that has not had any felonies, and there's a whole list of questions. However, the way the money is calculated is you have to have your payroll summaries from your payroll administrator. Now, those who go through ADP, those who go through Paychex, some have Quicken, Intuit. I'm not here to say which one is better than the other. However, when you do things electronically, some of the major payroll systems, it's able to give you some very good recording and reports. So what that does is it opened up and they asked for your payroll from April of 2019 through March. I have since been told that they're going to ask for January through March of 2019. But for right now, they asked from April, which is the second quarter, April through June, July to September, all right, and October to December, second, third, fourth quarter respectively, and Q1 of January, February, and March. So what you do is you put your total gross payroll. Now, it is not necessarily the gross payroll, but it is the employer's liability. Employer's liability includes that amount of money that the company has to pay, which can include the FICA match, the Medicare match, healthcare benefits, and simple IRA or 401 contribution. So if I'm paying you, now it really is up to the first $100,000 a year. Go ahead, Lori.
That's pretty self-explanatory on the application. So if people get all the information, they put on the application, submit that, they're going to get a portion of that, a portion back.
Well, let me explain how it's calculated, though.
Right. Okay.
So you put in all this amounts of money up to the first $100,000 of income for an employee. So $100,000 equals $8,333.33. All right, per month. 33 times 12 is 100,000. Then you have your annualized income and divide that by 12 months. It gives you a monthly income. That times 2.5 will allow you to, it tells you what your eligibility is under the PPP. Now, if you do it on the bank portal, when you put in these numbers, it automatically defaults and tells you how much that number is. Here's the key. The payroll loan hopefully can be forgiven. However, you can also use it for rent and utilities, but only 25% can be used for rent and utilities. For the rest, in order, you have to use it for your payroll in order for that to be forgiven. And you cannot decrease your payroll. And that's where I'm going to allow Allyson to come in to speak about who is eligible talking about furloughs, layoffs, and then FMLA. So Allyson, as I just went through the application process, could you possibly share with us the definition of furlough of your employees and what you have to give to your furloughed employees, layoff employees, and then we're going to get into what I'll moderate some of the questions about paying them for staying home and doing no work. Allyson?
Sorry, I thought I unmuted. But thank you, Jay, because I think that was very concise and very accurate in terms of what's happening with the loan application process. I just want to add too that I've had several clients apply for the loans. I know only 2 of which have actually been accepted for the loan. And the one of them was because they had a very long-standing relationship with the bank that provided the loan, and they got the loan pretty quickly. And there has been talk that in order to apply for this loan, you have to have already an association with the particular lender. And so I know that there has been, I don't know if it was the Attorney General or I think it was Senator Rubio, is making all of the banks change that requirement because it's not supposed to be that you need to have an association with a bank. You just need to have the qualifications of which you've already talked about. You have to have the financial backing and show what the payroll is in order to actually qualify for the loans. But any business that has under 500 people can qualify for this loan, provided you, like I said, that you have the financial backing for it. What was the other part of the question? I mean, the process is like I said, it's pretty simple. They're already running out of money. And you need to, in order to actually get this money, you need to still employ and pay your employees, because the point of it is it's an incentive for employers to keep the employees active and not collect unemployment, because they don't want it taxing on the unemployment system. So you have to actually be paying these employees in order to get this money. And have it be forgiven. And the money that is forgiven has to be used for those particular purposes, right? So you can't borrow the money and then use a portion of it to pay, some credit card bills or anything else, because that's what's not going to be forgiven. So if you furlough an employee, they are able to collect unemployment insurance because you're not paying them. So they're still technically on your payroll, but they're not being paid for doing any work. And you as an employer would still have to pay them benefits, but that would not qualify you for this type of loan because you're not actually paying them a salary or hourly, as well as if you terminate an employee. So those circumstances have changed a little bit from when this initially started, because there was a question about whether if you furloughed somebody, would you still be able to qualify for some of these loans? And so they're clarifying it to say that they don't actually have to come into your office to work. They could be working remotely, or they could not be working at all, but you still have to pay them the amount of money that they would be making had they been coming into your office.
And when would this need to be started? Like, if you got approved for the loan, like, what happens if we're still furloughed, or we're supposed to stay at home until the end of May, and you got the loan at the beginning of May, but then what is the whole, I guess, timeline of all of this?
You actually you have to start using that money right now. It's
Right.
from when you get funded.
From when you get funded. Okay.
Yeah. So you have to either rehire those people that you terminated, or those people who are on furlough. You have to start paying them their actual salary when you get the money.
And can we do it? Is it retro? We go back and pay them till the time they were furloughed, or from the time we get the loan?
I believe it's from the time that you get the loan, not from the time that they were furloughed, because they don't have to give back the unemployment, and you didn't have the funding to pay them, prior. So
that is correct. If you've laid them off, then they were allowed to immediately go out on unemployment without any delay or wait time. And then once you get funded, you have to use that money starting almost immediately. Now, here's the downside. and a lot of my clients are really upset about this. We have mandatory shutdown in many of the states.
Right.
So now we're not even allowed to open. We can't even do any surgery. And now we get funded. And now we have to start using the money, which will basically run out in 10 weeks, right?
Right.
And you're going to fund it. And yet these people are staying home and they're not doing anything. This is the downside of this program. It would be great if you could use it when you reopen, but you can't. And I really don't have an answer to that.
Because ultimately, right now, all the people that we put on furlough or you lay off, they're getting payments from EDD. So essentially, you'd have to go back and rehire them or put them back on your payroll, and then they lose their EDD benefits.
Well, you're taking them off of the EDD.
Yes.
All right, to bring them back off of unemployment. But if you paid them retro, then there's going to get into a problem with unemployment, because then they have collected unemployment and they've been paid. And I'm having this problem with people who want to pay people as an independent contractor while they're collecting unemployment. And I'm guiding all of my clients to, if you have an independent contractor's agreement with, make sure you have an agreement in writing with them to protect you as the practice. Because naturally, let's say what happens if the independent contractor states that they don't have any additional income because they're getting paid by a check as an independent contractor, you as an employer are not actually going to report that income until the end of the year when you do their 1099 and you file it with your federal taxes in 2021 for the 2020 tax year. However, it's the recipient of that financial resource that really is in violation, because they're not claiming that independent contractor money because there is no record that they actually were until they get the money from the 1090 or the report from the 1099, which doesn't actually state when that money was paid. It just states that it was paid throughout the year. Now, I have an opinion that people like Allyson are going to be very busy next year defending people who were fraudulent when the attorneys general actually in the individual states actually start going after people who were collecting unemployment and working under the table at the same time. Now, that's just an opinion. There was a question that came up that can you use more than 75% for the payroll protection program? The benefit is you can use 100% of it for the payroll protection program and have 100% of that be forgiven. But you can't use, only 25% can be used for the rent and the utilities, where the other 75% can be forgiven. Otherwise, you're going to have to give it back and pay an interest on that. So, Allyson, could you explain the differences between a furlough and a layoff termination? Because many people think that it's one in the same, and it's important that they understand the health benefits, the IRA, 401 contribution, furlough versus that of a total layoff without the guarantee of having to be brought back.
Yeah, so with a furlough, you are technically still employed. And so because of that, the employer has to provide you with benefits that the employer was providing before they furloughed. So if there's, health insurance benefits, pension benefits, 401k, any of those benefits, you have to pay them during the time period where they're not technically coming into work. You don't have to pay them their payroll, but you do have to pay all of those other benefits to them. And then they're also entitled to this, the paid sick leave law, which we'll talk about in a few minutes. But the employer would have to pay them for paid sick leave if they requested it, even though they are furloughed. If you're terminated, that's your regular termination where, whatever state requires of it, whether it's when you terminate them or if you have to pay them back any unused PTO or any sick time, but they are not entitled to any benefits or anything else. They collect unemployment insurance and you don't have to pay them for any sick leave, obviously, because they're not technically working for you any longer. So there's there's good things and bad with both. When somebody is furloughed, they are still entitled to collect unemployment. So that's a good thing, for them, but bad for the employer because they're still responsible for paying the benefits.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
All right, there's this. Okay, so now there's another term called EIDL. All right, and that's the Emergency Relief Fund, the Disaster Relief Fund. Now, EIDL has always been there, by the way. And there are people that are saying that if you've had a prior EIDL that you're not going to be eligible for the Payment Protection Program. But if you apply for the EIDL now and you receive it, you can get a $10,000 emergency advance right now. One of the things about that is that if you do get the EIDL, when you get the Payroll Protection Program, you're going to have to refinance the EIDL and pay that back. All right, so there's a lot of things that are going on right now about the SBA loan, which is a regular loan anyway. Now, one of the great things about the Payroll Protection Program is that you don't have to put up any security. There are no credit checks. There's none of the you don't have to put up a personal financial guarantee. You don't have to encumber your equipment in the office. So that beautiful monitor with that fireside chat wouldn't have to be guaranteed. You wouldn't have to guarantee your Kahlua and your Baileys and your coffee. Look, we hold on to that
which
stuff.
I would really like to join you guys with right now.
Our hot cocoa.
It's very cozy.
It looks very cozy. I'm here in 90-degree weather in sunny South Florida, so we don't need a fireplace. So,
It's raining here.
yeah. So one of the things so you've got the regular SBA, you've got the Payroll Protection Program, you've got the EIDL, but as Allyson said, and I had mentioned earlier, one of the most dangerous things is that now banks are only giving it to people that they do business with. Do I blame them? No. Why should they go out of their way if you don't have a relationship with your bank? But that's just my opinion. During these trying times, I think everybody needs to help one another, but truly the ones that have the relationship with their current financial institutions are the ones that are going to benefit most by it.
Right.
Now,
That makes sense.
there is some problems that are going on. There are some problems that are going on. And Allyson, I'd like you to give, some of the rulings on the FMLA, which is the Family Medical Leave Act, because there's a lot of wrong information going on about it. And that is, if I decide to go out, if my children had daycare and now the schools are closed and I don't have a nanny or I don't have a daycare facility, or I have symptoms of COVID-19, or I have to take care of a sick family member, then I'm going to go out on FMLA, the Family Medical Leave Act. Now, there are things that I'll ask Allyson to speak about, which is what is the coverage for 2 weeks of pay, the 80 hours, and then the 10 weeks after that at 2/3, because people just don't understand it. So who is eligible for it? Allyson, if you could speak to what FMLA is and how it's affecting the COVID-19 pandemic right now, that would be a great thing for people to understand.
Yeah, so just the one thing I want to just clarify too about what we were talking about, the emergency disaster loans. Those are loans that are meant for super emergency purposes, and they're required to disperse those loans within 3 days, and they will only give them in increments of $10,000. So it's beneficial if you think that you're going to be able to, sustain yourself for that time period. But it's not if you're going to actually end up closing, because then you're going to have to, pay those loans back. So, it's a very difficult time to determine what loans, if any, are going to be the best for you. But I just wanted to point that out, that those are meant really for payroll purposes, so that you can meet payroll within this short period of time. So, you have these two different categories of acts going. One is the ones that are trying to protect the employer, and then, which is with these loans and the tax credits, which we could talk about in a few minutes as well. But then you have the other portion of it that is trying to protect the employees and keep them whole during this time. So the emergency family and medical leave portion of it is that if you are currently employed and you need to take time off because of just plain sick time, upon request, the employer has to pay you the paid sick leave. So if you were a full-time employee, that's 80 hours. And if you were part-time, it's the average of the amount of time that you were working, up to 2 weeks. With that being said, the first 10 days of the leave is unpaid. However, and this is for the emergency family and medical leave, right? So if you have, the reason why you would need to leave employment for a short time period is you would have to use it to care for your son or daughter because they're sick or because their school has been closed. And you are technically supposed to provide proof that the school is closed, but most people are saying, well, it's pretty evident if you're within a state that has these shelters in place or the stay at home. So you wouldn't need the certification. But if, say, your child is in daycare, you would probably have to provide some sort of certification from the daycare provider saying that you have to stay home and take care of your child because the school is closed. So that you would also be able to get 10 days of paid sick leave at 2/3 of your regular pay, or not more than $200 per day, for a total of $2,000. Or you can choose to use any available paid sick time that you may have, or PTO, instead of the emergency leave. And then there's also qualifications for if you're an employee yourself and you need to take the sick leave, you just have to ask that upon request. And there's actually 2 forms that my firm has filled out, and I will provide them that my firm has actually prepared. And I'll oh my God, I can't even speak today. Provide them to Jay so that, if anybody wants access or has further information, or you can, contact me. But the qualifications for that is if you cannot go to work because the government has, shut you down or issued some sort of an isolation order. Your full-time employees are also qualified for the 80 hours of paid leave at the regular rate of pay for a maximum total of $5,110. And part-time employees qualify for those hours over the 2-week period as determined by the guidelines. And that's also at 2/3 regular pay, or not more than $200 per day, or $2,000 in total. So it's a lot of information, but like I said, the applications and the forms that we have, if you are still currently operating your business and you have employees that are looking to take this leave, these are really good forms that ask for the applicable information, asking for the reason for leave, the name, address, the return to work date, and the anticipated beginning date of leave.
I do want to make one correction, because with so much information, Allyson said 10 days. It's actually, I think she meant 10 weeks. All right.
Sorry, 10 weeks.
We say so many things, and it's the first the first 10 days, and then it's all right. But the 10 weeks is only good for certain things, which would be if you're caring for your child. All right. Everything else, what Allyson was saying. What I would like to review something
about that though. How does that affect if you apply for a PPP, but then they go on to FMLA?
Well, I'm concerned.
You're going to get into this too.
Well, I'm concerned that after the PPP runs out, right, that people are going to go on FMLA.
Mm. You would still have to pay them, because if even if they go out on leave, they're still qualified for payment on payroll. And that's one of the biggest issues with this is, because prior to April 1st, we had really been guiding everyone to say, look, if you're going to terminate people, terminate them before April 1, before this paid sick leave comes into effect, because you're going to have to continue to pay them, and then you're also going to have to pay them if they take this leave. And then they came out with the Stimulus Act, so saying that if you don't have your employees, then you're not entitled to any of the other stimulus that's provided. So it's really a catch-22. You're sort of like stuck in between. What do I do? Do I keep my employees and, have the fear that I'm going to have to continue on and pay them, and, indefinitely, or, just cut my losses now and, terminate them and not be eligible for the loan. So
some of the things that people are telling me, that they're getting some feedback from employees who are eligible for unemployment and now able to get an additional $600 a week, but they're bringing people back to work under the payroll protection program, paying them their normal salaries or hourly rate. And the people that they're asking to come back saying, why should I even bother coming back to work when the people that are on unemployment can make just as much money for the next X amount of months and not have to work?
Right, but then how does it affect the business owner who's applied for PPP and they get qualified for a certain amount? And then
I think it's going to remain to be seen whether or not they're going to be obligated to rehire those people that were terminated. Because if somebody doesn't want to come back to work for you, you can't force them to, but you could rehire somebody else. So as long as you have a workforce that you're paying, sustaining your business, then I believe that would be sufficient to qualify for the loan and to keep that loan and have the loan forgiveness.
That's correct. However, it's the people that you're bringing back to the work that are the ones that are now complaining that I'm working and then I have to work and I'm getting paid the same amount of money as the person that is on unemployment. So put me out on unemployment. I happen to personally think, once again, another opinion of mine for what that's worth is there is going to be an incredible pool of qualified people out there when this all shakes out, because we do a lot of recruiting for clients around the country. And you know what I hear? Every part of the country says there's no good staff. I don't care if it's in Philadelphia, New York, Washington, Florida, Tennessee, California, Arizona. I mean, everybody says there's no good qualified candidates out there because everyone that's good is already working. Well, when this all shakes out, now it's going to be kind of like the states bidding against each other for the PPP or the PPE. I think it's going to be the same thing. People that have been laid off, there's not going to be any allegiance anymore. And when people who are willing to pay more money for those services, for those spas, unfortunately, that there's going to be a lot that aren't going to be able to make it through this because they are not funded well enough and they're going to go bankrupt or out of business. If I could, I'd like to take some questions that have come in order. One of the first questions is that I'm a single owner LLC with no employees, which means that you are a disregarded entity if you're a single member LLC, and that I only need help with rent, utilities, and insurance, and that the person doesn't want a repayable loan if they don't have to. Is there going to be any forgivable loan options? Well, this goes along with the next question because I'm going to group them together. It says, no one can seem to answer me. I'm a single member LLC who does not use payroll, but rather takes an owner's draw. Can I apply for this loan? I've purchased several large machines, wrote a chunk of that off to bring my income down with the internal revenue to basically zero. And if this is the case, do I still qualify? Well, let me share with you what I tell all of my clients who want to sell their business or want to get money, and they've played one end against the other. And then I'd like Allyson to comment because we work with clients together on a lot of these things. What you do sometimes is try to avoid paying taxes by paying all your expenses at the end of the year to show that you didn't make any profit. You don't take any payroll so that you don't have to pay the FICA and Medicare match, and you just take distributions. And then you're paying less taxes during the year, and now you get situations where people hire me and they say, Jay, I'd like to sell our business. Can you help us? And then I go look, and I look at the business, and the P&L shows you're not making any money. And they say, well, sure, I'm making money. Look. And I said, yeah, but if I'm looking at your tax report and I want to try and go on X amount of points over EBITDA, I can't prove it. Here, you've done the same thing. You're not showing that there's any employees, even yourself. Now, even in my business, I am self-employed. I have a staff of 6, very small boutique company. However, I and my business partner, Mara, are the owners, but we take a salary. I can claim my salary because on the 940 and the 941 that I file quarterly and annually, that shows how much I'm paying to the federal unemployment, and to the 941, which shows how much I'm paying for FICA and Medicare, the employer's match, it is actually having my name on the 940 showing as an employee. Now, yes, you can take distributions after that on profits, but I'm actually an employee of my corporation because I did file my EIN, I filed as a corporation, and I elected to file as a sub S. So therefore, I do have to file by March 15th a federal tax form, all right, for my company because I elected to file as a sub S corporation. Whereas when you file as an LLC, as it's a single member entity, as this person has shared, you don't have to file a federal tax form, although you will have to put it as a schedule with your personal taxes because you're going to get a distribution of K1. Whether it's 100% as a single member entity, it's still profit and or loss that you have to show, all right? So here you've tried to skin the cat one way, and then when you're trying to get disaster money, you're not showing that there's really that need, all right, because you didn't have any employees. So you're not going to be eligible for the PPP. You could be eligible for the EIDL. Allison, would you be able to comment on that?
No, I agree with you 100% because the loan is really specific for the retention or rehiring of employees. And although you can use it for other purposes like, mortgage and rent and, other items, or if you don't have any employees, then you will not be eligible for this specific loan. I do believe that you would be eligible for the, the disaster loan, so that you should definitely try to apply for that, because that's meant to get you by for the short term with your business and not necessarily specific just for payroll needs.
All right. Another question is, and then I'm going to take 2 or 3 more questions because there are a lot.
Yeah.
And then I want to wrap it up with a couple of other comments.
Yeah, we only have about 5 minutes left. We've had such good information. This could be a series. If there's a question you really wanted to answer, go ahead quickly. But I really wanted to help our viewers kind of what should they do to prepare to open back up? What do they need to do? Where do they need to get their heads focused to help open themselves back up in the next few weeks? So that's one of the questions I want to go through.
Real short and quick to the point. You should be doing right now what you've always said you didn't have time to do when you were busy, because now you have time to do it. For those of you who are the business owners, now is when you should be working on your business instead of working in your business, because there is nothing to work in your business. So get your marketing in order, get your payroll, and get your policies, procedures, and protocols in order. Keep up your marketing in your social media to allow people to know that you are still around. Send them e-blasts. It doesn't have to be salesy. Just keep them informed of what the status of your practice is. Do telehealth. Do things and have them call you. Tell them this will be a free service. You can speak to me, you can call me, and we will schedule you when you have time. But the you could become Johnny and Mary come lately. I promise you, there are going to be people that they're going to go to the Lori's of the world when she opens back up, when she's kept in constant communication with these people. Put on your phone a message of how to get in touch with you. Put a slider on your web page. Just don't make it seem like you're open for business, but then there's nobody home. Keep people informed and don't make it salesy. You can have opportunities and have your own stimulus packages, but you need to be doing something, and you need to be doing it now.
Yeah, that's really
and,
good.
and I have a lot of clients that have the ability to do the telehealth.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Allyson.
So just very quickly, my day has been absolutely crazy. I lost power in my house for like 4 hours.
Oh, no.
So crazy. So please forgive me because this has just been really just one of these nutty days. But anyway, so I have a lot of clients that are doing the telehealth because, fortunately they have the ability to do that. But I would also say that, if you're just getting involved in medical spas or in, aesthetics, maybe now is a good time, just to read up on things, educate yourself on just different new techniques and methods. I mean, you're not going to be able to do any particular training right now, I would imagine, in most states. But, it's always good to just keep educated. And like Jay said, you keep your name out there. I mean, there's social media that's still, going on. I mean, I get emails and texts and Twitters and Instagrams every single day. So, you just want to remain in the forefront if you think that ultimately this is going to, your business will be viable. And, and consider if you are not happy with the current staff that you have, maybe it's time to consider things for the future, whether you want to terminate somebody or, plan for the future as to the type of staff that you really want and what you really need in your business going forward, and just, rethink how things are working right now.
I very much agree with you, Allyson. I think that we know that a lot of patients are knocking on our door to come back to us, but it might not be as many as it was before. And our patients might not all have jobs that they had before. So I think we all have to brace for a certain reduction in income in our businesses. It could be 20, 30, 40%. It could be a decent reduction. And I think we need to tighten our belts and look at staffing and look at where we were wasting money before. We need to kind of control a lot of that.
Just to share, and look, there are 100 people on this call because I'm looking at the number of participants, and that's awesome. And there's just as many questions flowing in as there are with our limited amount of time. But just real quickly, someone asked, is internet and phone service considered utility? The answer is yes. For employees that you're considering laying off before the COVID, is it better to lay them off now or keep them on paid through the payroll protection program? That's a personal decision you have to make. You're going to, when you get that money, then you can't lay them off and then bring other people. It's based on who they were at the time. And unfortunately, you're going to have to start using that money as soon as you get it in, even if you're not open. That is a shame. Another question is, how much money should you have in savings in your account? It's not a matter of money. Every practice is different. My practice that was multi-millions versus some that we represent that's only a few $100,000, I say you need 3 to 4 months of actual burn rate. What burn rate is, what are your fixed costs to operate that business, even if another patient didn't come in. That's what a burn rate is. How much do I go through in any one given month? And you can't be running month to month. You've got to have 3 to 4 months, because I happen to believe that's exactly how long this is going to last. And you better have 3 to 4 months in burn rate after that, because from what I'm hearing, if it does come back again, and it may not last as long, hopefully, you better be prepared for the unexpected again. All right. So we'll talk about independent contractors. There are so many questions, Lori. What I'd like to do is be able to give Allyson and my contact information.
Yeah, we actually will have a survey that
We
will
do.
get sent out to everybody. And if they want your information, will be forwarded to them. But if you want to quickly give them your information right now, more than welcome to do that. But we're going to do a follow-up survey with everybody.
Okay, mine is JayShorr at Shorr, just like my name, SHORR Solutions, plural, because we have more than one solution. SOLUTIONS.com. Allyson?
Mine is AAVILA at GRS as in Sam, M as in Mary.com. And
Now, Allyson and I, our companies work very well together. We're going to be working together. We have something on our website. We normally work under contract on an annual contract, but we do have a stimulus package. And this is not a sales. This is something I'm just trying to explain, that you can buy a month of service that is, it's a 70% discount reduced that'll have all the answers to all these questions. You're going to have advice. We're working with a program with Allyson to put something up, but it also comes with a 5 hours of consulting to be used between now and May 31st for under $1,000. You can't get that in any given month for anything. And then going forward, we're working with Aesthetic Immersion to be putting on specific things that we're going to be doing in the future. So look, we're not here to sell anything right now. This is here to help all of you. But if we can and help you through this pandemic and this crisis from a legal regulatory compliance point of view, you have a well-versed transaction and litigating attorney that works on our side, the doctor's side, and I work with aesthetic, cosmetic, and plastic surgery practice and med spas throughout the country. So, you know, we're here to help you in any way we can. I apologize for not being able to get to all these questions. There are so many, but I'll leave it up to Lori, you know, and you put them in however you want, and we'll be more than happy to answer them.
Perfect. Well, thank you guys
Excellent.
so much. So much great information. Almost too much, definitely too much to digest.
Right. I hope everybody was taking notes. That's a lot of really good information. And hopefully it helped you out there if you're a business owner or you're an employee, kind of where to go or what to expect, or know what your choices are during this time period. And it's going to be limited. We're gonna open back up. We're going to be getting going again. But we've never gone through this before. So I think this has opened our eyes to what can happen in our lifetime. And it's helped us refocus on how we maybe want to run our businesses in the future. So this has been a big learning experience for many people.
Thanks, Jay. Thanks, Allyson.
thank you guys.
Guys.
Thank you.
All
I
right.
wish you the best, everybody. Stay safe. Good luck.
Bye.
Take care.
So guys, remember, we are going to be sending out a survey at the end of this. If you guys didn't catch their emails or the contact information, check mark that box and we'll be able to get you all that information. If you have any questions with regards to this stuff that we can forward to them, also send it to our email address, which is learn@theaestheticimmersion.com. So make sure you fill out our survey. So we are going to jump into...
Oh, wait. And the survey, if you fill out the survey, you're automatically going to be entered into the contest that we have for this week.
Oh, yes.
So
we're going to jump into the contest. Let's see what our contest is going to be. So our contest this week is for one lucky person out there. We are going to give away our webinar bundle. So it's going to be 8 different webinars that we've recorded on lips, temples, under eyes, Sculptra, PDO threads, hyperdiluted radius,
facial balancing,
cannula, facial balancing. So those are the great thing when you buy our webinar bundle. Plus, if you do it, you will get 20% off any of the future webinars in this year. And you'll get 10% off of any future hands-on course of your choice. All right, so great thing while you guys are stuck at home and need to get more education, that will happen. Let's see, what else do we have? We have our winners, right?
So we have
our winners from last week.
we do.
Congratulations,
These
guys.
are our winners.
We have our
Yay.
5 winners. You guys will get your choice of any of our webinars that are up and coming through the month of, I think, September. So I think we have next week, we have our hands and earlobes. I think planning in May, we're going to be doing one on injecting noses. We're going to be doing one on the differences of female and male injection. So there's a couple more webinars in the series. Let's see.
So for our contest now, make sure you follow the Aesthetic Immersion, tag 3 providers, and comment how many years you've been practicing. It starts today and it goes through the 15th at midnight.
Yes.
So we'll announce the winners on the 16th, which is pajama day, I hear. So we're going to be in our pajamas next Thursday. So we're going to be announcing those winners on that day during S'mores Time, which is free, remember.
And then one last entry extra bonus that our team has graciously offered to all of you guys is that if you guys post about our giveaway on your stories or on one of your posts and you tag Aesthetic Immersion, you will get an extra submission into the potentially winning our webinar bundle series. Alrighty.
So keep in mind, just some upcoming webinars. On Tuesday, April 14th is our hands and earlobes webinar. That's usually $199. That is $9.99. So this month we're trying to really make them affordable for everybody. And I know you guys are all getting educated out. So this is awesome. And then we have another S'more Time next Thursday. It's going to be 3 o'clock Pacific time. Nitty gritty of toxins and fillers. So we're going to get down and dirty, molecular structure, everything of toxins and fillers. Spread it with your friends. Let them know. It's going to be a good one.
Send your questions.
Send in your questions for us.
Earlier,
that's going to be our last
so
free S'more Time with Gideon and Lori. Aww.
On schedule right now.
On schedule. I don't know. That's all we got. So if you missed our laser webinar this last Tuesday, you can sign up to see the replay. And we are offering that for $9.99 because that was an April webinar, and that was on laser physics. We had so many great comments on that, and people loved learning about it. Hopefully we explained laser physics pretty well for you. And if you're new to lasers, or if you've only been using lasers for a while, it was a really good webinar. So for $9.99, it's well worth it.
Basics of lasers. You got to know that really 101 basic laser physics stuff.
We kind of shoot off a CO2 and you get to see what it does and all that good stuff. Yeah.
What else? Our webinar bundle series, make sure if you do put it or purchase it, that you put in S'more 402, SMORE 402.
For the bundle.
And that will expire at the end of this month as well.
So it gives you like half off of that bundle.
That's about it.
That's it. I think we're wrapping it up.
Thank you guys for joining us. We will see you next week.
Thank you.
Same time, same channel.
Be safe. Stay at home.
Be safe, guys. Bye.
Bye, everybody.